Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We are coming at you on December 1st, 2021. Yeah, we made it that far into December 2021, even with Joe Biden as president. Somehow we managed to make it this far. But before we get into the topics of the show, let me introduce you to our panel. So in our upper left-hand corner today, we have our invisible hand, James Just. He is visible today, helping us out in front. And in our upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. And just as a side note, Leon, the word is on vacation. So that's the word on him, just so you're not wondering. But we hope to have him back next week. Okay, so let's
get guy get to go on vacation. That's what I want to know.
Yeah. That's a good question.
We're going to have to have a conversation with Leon when he gets back here.
Yeah, well, we got to ask him how he does that trick. maybe it'll be his gift to us for the holidays. Tell us how that happens. But anyways, today it's about court trials everywhere. It's just trials. And today, one of the most interesting cases coming along is in front of our Supreme Court. It is the case of, it's called Dobbs versus the Jackson Women's Health Organization. And it is about abortion. And if I could get a visual on that, it'd show you a little bit on that. Essentially, what this case is doing, it's deals with abortion rights in Mississippi, but of course it will have implications throughout the entire country. It has to do mainly with the fact that the constituency of the justices has changed now. And so we're starting to see some of the impact of Trump's presidency in appointing conservative justices. And so this challenge has come up where Mississippi has passed a state law that essentially restricts a person's right to go get an abortion if it's after 15 weeks. Now, there's some other challenges that are coming along, too, in Texas, but this one is going directly after the fact, does the person have the right to an abortion? And so that's what's in front of the Supreme Court right now. And from a libertarian perspective, it's one of those things where, we really have a struggle with this because some people really go after the rights of the unborn. And some people talk about, well, maybe the state should focus on the rights of the people who are, sort of already walking around, I guess. And so that's kind of where we're at. And what do you guys think about this? I mean, we've struggled with abortion before on the show. You guys want to jump in on this?
James has got his mute button on.
Oh, our invisible hand has gone silent.
Yes, he has.
Well, Screaming Eagle, why don't you jump in first?
All right. Well, gosh, if I have to, yeah. So, and my cough is a little worse today, but anyway, I'll try to persevere. Well, the thing is that I'm probably more on the rights of the poor, innocent, unborn child. Over and above the rights of the person that had a lot of fun to get themselves into that situation to begin with. And, so that's my inclination. The moral issue of a person, even if it's an unborn person, I don't buy into any of that nonsense about, it's just a mass of tissue and all that. It could be anything. It could pop out as a horse or a cow. Or a dog, I mean, we don't know until some point in time. I mean, I've heard the most ridiculous arguments. But, now it's a human being from the time of the first splitting of the first set of cells. And so, and with all the DNA, the eye color, and are you going to be good at basketball? Are you going to be good at math? All that kind of stuff's all in there from the get-go. And so, so anyway, I mean, that's kind of, I'm kind of like in that area. On the other hand, I do recognize that that people are going to do it. So maybe that falls into, well, why make anything illegal if people are going to do it? Then might as well make everything legal. That I don't know if that's a valid argument on my part, but I was going to the whole state right. The states can determine where they lie on it, and then but keep the federal government out of it, as kind of where that argument goes, and that allows for some flexibility. And if a woman wanted to have an abortion and her state didn't allow it, she could go next, to the state next door and get it done, and blah blah blah. Anyway, what do you think, James?
Well, I think I know how to use the mute button thing now. Well, oddly enough, this is an interesting question because it goes to the role of government. What role does government have in determining where society's outcomes go? And, I pointed out a few years ago during the last mandatory vaccine push, when they wanted to get mandatory vaccines for kids to go to school, I pointed out that this was going to actually end up as an anti-Roe v. Wade case eventually, because what you've done is you've said that the government has the right to determine what goes on inside your body. And once you determine that the government has that right, it's just a political process until that decides, where that right ends and where that line is drawn. And quite frankly, I don't want the political process drawing that right. I am not a fan of abortion. I don't think they should happen. But making them illegal clearly doesn't solve the problem. We've gone down that road before. So, why are we going back down that road? Because we're at a time in our society where we like to impose our moral codes on other people. And I think really, if we want to get down to brass tacks, that's where it is. We're talking about court cases. I just read this morning, Jason, that someone who was born with spina bifida sued the doctor who performed the delivery and won like $21 million in the UK for delivering the baby.
Wow.
So it actually goes both ways. There can be the other argument is that if if you're giving birth to someone who's got a severe birth defect, are you committing your own moral violation? I don't know where we draw these lines, but I do know that politicians and courts are not the place to do it. That's what I do know.
Yeah, and that is one thing I think as a libertarian, that the grayer the area is, why not let people figure it out for themselves? I just, it's certainly, most of us would have a problem if you have an infant there and somebody's saying, hey, let's tear that infant apart. But, is that, I guess the problem is that you're going into somebody else's body to make these decisions, about a life that may, it may be just a few weeks old, if we're going to give the same weight to that life at, say, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, does that mean too then that we have to try people for manslaughter and murder at the same, extent if somebody, accidentally gets killed that way? It just seems to me there's so much gray area here to put bright legislative lines around. It just seems, I don't know, not really in the spirit of liberty to me, but I can definitely see though how somebody can take a principled stand on protecting, what they see as a human life as well. So, sorry.
No.
Are you saying you don't envy the Supreme Court's position or situation right now?
Yeah, probably. But, this is one of the things that they're struggling with too, because not only is it an issue of principle on what's the right answer on this or not, but they also have to weigh in, the idea of overturning earlier justices as well. So, yeah. That's always a challenging thing as well. So it's, I believe they call that the stare decisis, I guess, where if it's past law, unless they have a really good reason, you're supposed to sort of go along with it. So, So anyways, that's kind of one of the things that's in front of the court at the moment on this. But yeah, I definitely, really see the point that James was talking about. And I was trying to make this point to people as well on the left when this whole idea of forced vaccinations, came along, because, the idea that once you say that the government has a right to go inside your body, regardless of whether this is a life or not, if let's suppose the majority just decides we don't want abortions, regardless of whether we consider this human life, maybe there's who knows what the reason is. Well, at that point, it's whatever the majority wants. They have the right to go inside your body, So I really, think that that's a critical line, and to keep the government out of, right at that spot. So anyways, you guys have any other thoughts on the abortion issue, or are we ready to abort this issue?
That's a terrible transition there, Jason.
Well, maybe we can abort that transition in the editing. It's funny. We've had a ton of cases going on, recently, and Rittenhouse was, certainly had everybody focused, but there's been a lot of other high-profile stuff in the courts as well, and one of those is the Ahmod Arbery trial. And so that is actually a case of a lot of you are aware of, where a verdict was, I'm out of order on my court cases here. There we go. The Ahmod Arbery trial. And so that is a case where 3 white men were, essentially convicted of chasing down a black man who they thought was guilty of robbing their houses, or they suspected him of robbing one of their empty houses. They had him on video trespassing in the house, but they didn't actually have the evidence to show, I believe, that he had actually stolen from the house. And they had him multiple times too, on video trespassing. These guys, they saw him, that he was there on video, and so they got in their trucks, they went out and they chased the guy down, and they were armed, and a struggle ensued. And, Ahmod Arbery wound up being killed in the struggle as the firearm went off. And so this, I find this to be an incredibly sad case. I know there's an awful lot of people on the left who, thought this was a case of a lynching, and they're really happy to see these 3 guys go to jail. And, there's some people on the right, I guess, who, weren't as happy with this. My main problem with this whole case is that, these guys, they accidentally killed this guy, but it's not like they were knocking over a liquor store when they did it. I mean, they literally had some cause to suspect that the guy had done something on their property. Whether that means they should have, stopped him armed is the problem, right? They tried to stop him. He didn't have any stolen goods on him, and and now the guy's dead. So clearly they have culpability in this whole thing. But, this isn't quite the case either of, somebody who just happens to accidentally shoot the liquor store owner while they're robbing the store either. And they didn't intend to do it. This is a case where they were actually, might otherwise have been seen as positive people in their community. So I just find it an incredibly sad case. But, these guys, I think, probably had some culpability. What do you guys think of this case?
I'll just say that I'd convict the guy in the middle just for the look on his face. but I'm happy for the outcome of this one because people with firearms for self-defense need to stop hunting down people that might have taken property, in my opinion, my humble opinion, and I mean it's none of that is within the law of self-defense. So when you hunt somebody down and you try to you pretend you're a police officer, what about calling the police? Hey, we're following this guy and we think he stole something from us. We've got video evidence. Can you come and help us out? I mean, whatever happened to that? No, but they got to try to arrest him, which, for most people, you see somebody with a gun coming after you. Well, some people are going to surrender and some people are going to run and some people are going to fight. And, this guy fought and then he, the struggle ensued. the shotgun went off, and now you got a dead guy. Okay, so now these three guys that instigated the whole thing, essentially. I mean, you can't say that the guy instigated the crime because it's property crime. So it wasn't a crime of that called for self-defense, is what I'm saying. And we need to, people that own firearms need to educate themselves and stop this kind of nonsense. What do you think, James?
Well, I think people who have a tool that can cause great destruction, whether it's a gun or a car, you must be extra responsible for it, right? I've been a driver, a professional driver for a long time. And, driver safety, your job is not actually to deliver packages or to drop your passenger off. Your job is to do that safely. It's your safety is actually the first thing, because if you get in an accident, whatever efficiency you've created is out the window. You've blown it up. One accident blows out whatever efficiency you've done for years out the window. The cost efficiencies you've done. And the same thing is with the firearm. There is no room for error. Whether it's these guys or Alec Baldwin or anybody else, you have no room for error. So you depend on your processes. And these guys clearly didn't depend on their processes. You can't go off chasing people down and then say, well, I'm the victim. Well, no, you created the problem.
Yeah. And I would say that there's at least a tiny bit of problem that was created by Ahmod Arbery and the fact that he was trespassing, but it didn't rise to the level of him being confronted with a weapon out in the middle of the street.
If you're going to do that, then you've got to pay the consequences. If something goes wrong, you have to understand that you are going to pay the consequences.
Yeah. And, the guy with the gun could have had a badge too, which would have been a lot better for everybody involved. Maybe not Ahmad, he might have been killed by the cop, who knows, but at least at least these three citizens, well, now everybody's a citizen, cops are citizens, military are citizens, these guys are citizens. I meant these kind of guys that really shouldn't put themselves in harm's way over property, and then the guy doesn't have anything, but they shouldn't do that. I mean, I don't do it. I have insurance for loss of property. And so that's the way I look at it.
Well, going from this case that was racially charged and was an actual real issue that happened here, let's go to another case that has a high infusion of race in it. And that is the Jesse Smollett case. It's funny. This is sort of like a deja vu all over again type of thing. But Jesse Smollett, if you recall, he was the actor who in Chicago, who had gone out and claimed that he was jumped by some people who said, "Hey, this is MAGA country," in the middle of the night in Chicago, and they had attacked him apparently, and so he tried to call the police and have them come and investigate. And when the police showed up, and this is an image, he actually apparently had the noose wrapped around his neck. So when the police came, they could see that there was actually a noose wrapped around his neck. And in this particular case, is just a Google search of the images. But you can see, they've sort of blotted out his face. But he's walking around his apartment, still wearing the noose when the police showed up. So, anyways, that was sort of what was at stake. But he had gone claiming this was the case, and it turned out that the people who he claimed he was attacked by turned out they were paid by him early on. At least that's what seemed to come out in the evidence. And the case sort of got dismissed a little bit. I guess it sounded like that was what the prosecutor was going to do. But then it turned out there may have been some corruption there. And so now it's flat back in the courts again. And the guys he paid to attack him, now he's trying to claim that, they were just attacking anyways, and he didn't actually pay them to attack him. He paid him for health training or something else. So anyways, what do you guys have to think about this crazy case? Tim, you're muted.
All right,
Tim, you're muted.
I'm looking at the lady in the lower left corner that looks like Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, that he's got his arm around there. I don't know if he dated this lady, but
Tim,
points for him for that one.
Tim, Tulsi's going to be jealous is what's going to happen right there.
Yeah, who is?
Tulsi's going to be jealous when she finds out that you're.
Yeah, when you find out you're looking, your eyes are straying.
Yeah, I know. It just happens. I can't help it.
I have mixed feelings about this whole thing, to be honest. It's one I don't particularly like using the justice system for this kind of thing, right? It's slap the guy on the wrist, give him a ticket, make him go down and punch a thing for a couple. I just it seems like a waste of money, right? The guy got embarrassed nationally, and so, but at the same time, it created a big kerfuffle nationally, during that period of time. And so there is some culpability for that. He should have to pay, but I'm not entirely sure it's judicial. So I have mixed feelings.
Yeah. Well, it does seem to me that, when there was a couple of things at play here. One was that he was, using up the police's time, for something that appeared to be just his own, something to get himself in the media. But the other thing was he was really stirring up this whole, racial strife that we have in the country right now. And it's just, gosh, if that's not a crime, it seems like it should be. I mean, my gosh, he tried to claim that he was in Chicago. He was jumped by people who were wearing Trump hats, essentially. And it turned out they were just guys paid by him. And, this is in a almost a tinderbox that we're on right now with these trials like Ahmod Arbery, the Rittenhouse trial that just happened. Where there's just so much racial strife, and to have some guy who's an actor who's doing well, but he decided he needed to do better and needed to be more the center of attention, and so just creating this victimization. I guess there's a lot of Democrats that I know that would be guilty of that stirring up racial strife charge. Yeah.
Well, that's why I have the mixed feelings, because, he created a lot of angst, if nothing else, or a lot of consternation, a lot of discussion. A lot of people got angry at each other over this whole issue. And so, you do feel like someone should pay some kind of a price for that. But I don't know. The libertarian in me comes out. So I hate using the judicial system for these kinds of things. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this. One of these things, I'm glad I don't have to make this decision, yet. Until someone starts electing me, I don't have to make these decisions. So,
yeah. Well, I was hoping we'd have time for the Maxwell trial, but there's so much involved in that. I think maybe we ought to skip that. Tim, is the Good Guys with Gun segment something we could squeeze in a few minutes, or?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, I got it.
Let's go for
Ready
that.
to go.
Good Guys with Guns.
We got something recent here. This happened Monday of this week. And in Illinois, somewhere was Illinois woman was fortunate. This is a good gal with a gun, to have a gun when a carjacker put a gun in her face. A woman fought back and fired her own gun when a would-be carjacker pointed a gun at her outside a bank in Roseland on Monday afternoon. So, the woman fired at the carjacker when he approached her at gunpoint, just as she was getting into her car in the parking lot of the Chase Bank on Michigan Avenue. Hours later, a bullet casing from the shots the woman fired remained lying on the ground. I guess they didn't have any reloaders out there willing to jump in and pull that up for reloading. But anyway, the woman said she had just left the bank and had some cash in her hand. But before she could get to her car, parked a few feet from the front door of the bank, she said someone else opened her front door and a gun was aimed at her head. Thank God I had my gun, or I'd probably be dead right now, the woman said. She doesn't know if she hit the suspect or not, but that doesn't really matter. The point of having a gun is to protect your life or the life of another, not to necessarily kill the bad guy, which I agree. That's it.
Okay. So Tim, did she pull the gun out then after a shot in the car or before she got in the car? Was that
it really didn't say, but that's kind of odd. Yeah. If she would have had the gun on her when she was in the bank, that takes a lot of guts to walk into a bank with a gun, even if it's concealed. I guess people do it probably quite often, but that's but anyway, it sounds like what happened, because then when she came out, she was able to access the gun, unless it was lying on the floor inside the car or something like that, which is dumb. But anyway, there you have it.
Okay. Well, I guess a crime thwarted. Okay. Well, going to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. This week, we have our usual suspect. Biden's back at us with a travel ban again. So this time, he's decided that there's with the Omicron virus that there is a big threat, I guess, apparently bigger than Delta, bigger than the last threat. I think we're going to keep seeing these giant threats coming no matter what. But he's decided that we need to shut down travel. So he decided last Friday, and he decided he'd make it take effect on a Monday. And so apparently it was that urgent that it had to, wait the weekend for it to go into effect. But he decided to do that. And the funny thing is, though, with this whole thing is back when Trump had been president and he had put a travel ban on China, and this was back in February 1st, 2020, what Biden's response to that was, he tweeted out, we need to lead the way with science, not Donald Trump's record of hysteria, xenophobia, and fear-mongering. So that's what he said about Trump's travel ban. But for some reason, when Biden does it, it's it's A-okay. It's not racist. It's just good presidenting. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Oh, well, we know these travel bans don't work. They just found this morning that there's already the Transformer virus is already here in California. They already discovered that this morning. So we know travel bans don't work. It's the symptom of we have to do something, so we're going to do something. Right? That's what we've done. It's just more of the same.
Well, apparently, what is it? Omicron or whatever? That's a Greek letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's supposedly a Greek letter, and what it's a mathematical. Funny they named it that. It's a mathematical thing that says output is limited even when the inputs grow to infinity, which parallels. I mean, they named it what James has just described. So no matter what your input is, like travel bans or trillions of dollars, eventually the output is limited. What you can gain from it. Of course, it doesn't stop the government from putting unlimited inputs. But anyway, that's what. So that they call it the big O notation. And a lot of algorithms use it and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting that at least they named it appropriately, which they always do. Well, they name them opposite of what they are usually. This one, they actually named it what it really is. But anyway,
well, what's funny about
28.
that too is the letter right in front of the alphabet in that is Xi, which is spelled Xi, which is quite frankly the president of China's name. And somehow they jumped from Delta to Omicron and completely missed that one. So
oh my gosh.
I don't know. Maybe a little assist from Biden to President Xi. I don't know. But that's all the time we have today in our show. So thanks so much for joining us. And we hope you'll join us for the next one. Until then, stay free.
Yep.
Bye.